You've taken a few detours trying to get out of gaming and into
Right,
gaming.
yeah.
Now, there was a period of time, I remember talking to you
Yeah.
when you were doing this, where you got out of gaming and you went to go work for a knife company.
Yeah,
What inspired getting out of gaming, and why did you choose a knife company?
It was more necessity. So I was laid off from my full-time game job in Chicago area, and then I decided that I wanted to move, take my wife and kids and move back to Portland, Oregon, where I'm from, and I have family. And that what I didn't want to do was just be like a nomad, where I'm just like constantly moving from one city to the next, getting laid off. And so, going to Portland, it's around 2007. There's no work from home. There's no game scene in Portland. And really the only job I could find was with Gerber Legendary Blades, who makes hunting and combat knives for the military. Hunting knives for sportsmen, combat knives for the military. It's actually pretty cool. But one of the things I learned working there was like, I'd worked for years, 5 years in games. Lots of young people, and we're a little immature, and we're kind of unprofessional. Sometimes it felt like a frat house, a little bit. I'm sure you can relate to some some of your experiences. Not necessarily, and I'm not. It's just not necessarily in a good way, but when I left, when I started this job at Gerber, I thought, okay, maybe it's time I grow up. This is a professional company, professional people know how to behave in an office. And they were so much fucking worse. Like they were just so, it was so messed up, you know what I mean? And I just thought, okay, I think maybe games isn't so bad, maybe it's just the world is just kind of messed up. And, maybe games isn't so immature. Maybe games isn't so really out of control. Not that it can't, grow up or be more professional or whatever. But so for 2 years, I was going to like conventions and showing off knives and giving knives to Ted Nugent to go hunting with and talk about on his TV show and then but it just was really unfulfilling, and I could tell I wasn't enjoying it, and I started putting out feelers, and I passed a writing. I took a writing test with The Onion, and I got onto their freelance contributor staff, and that was a big like confidence boost for me. Like they paid very little, but I just kind of felt like, okay, maybe I am still like, decent at this. And I think it just started, Telltale Games reached out to me. They were in their sort of early days, and they were doing CSI games to keep the lights on while they worked on their own like IP and stuff. And I think I got a call from Dave Grossman, who became their creative director and remembered me and started throwing some work my way on CSI, Las Vegas, and then I just started, cold calling, and it eventually got to the point where I felt like, oh man, I think I could do this freelance full time. There wasn't really 2007. I don't think there were hardly any full time freelance game writers. Maybe a handful. I didn't even really think it was possible, but it snowballed, and I was able to find enough work, and then I've been doing that now, still 2026. So.